Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and welcome to the new series, No Skips. It's all killer, no filler. Rob the Wax is joining me today, and we're going to talk about albums that you can play with no skips. Let's do this. Let's do it.
Grant's Rock Warehouse, now with the look and feel of hand-tooled leather.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight the Waxed is in the house. We have a new series that we are starting up called No Skips. So this is where Rob picks two albums, I pick two albums, and we're just going to talk about records. And the whole goal here for everyone is to turn you on to stuff. So these are albums that we consider there are no track. These are perfect records, no tracks that you want to skip. Because, you know, there are something, I will go on record, Rob, I will say this, like, for as much as since Brian Wilson just passed, as great of an album as Pet Sounds is, there are some tracks I probably skip on it. The instrumentals, I do.
I consider that album, there are 4 or 5 must listen to songs on that.
Well, yeah, but, you know, for as highly ranked as Pet Sounds is, I always kind of looked at the instrumentals as kind of filler, because why didn't I, but if you're a hardcore Brian Wilson fan, you probably don't look at it that way.
No. I actually was in a record store the other day where I was thinking, is there a version of Pet Sounds where it's all instrumental? Because that's what they were playing.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're going to deem Brian Wilson this genius of music, then the instrumentals are important. Right. But I'm not, when I talk about the no skip, so should I tell how I came up with the idea? Because I pitched Grant about doing this. Because if you come to my channel, I yell at you. And I don't know if that's good for Grant. But if... but
there's not a yelling... Well, I yell. It depends. If Pumpkin Vinyl is trolling me.
Do you make people cry?
No.
No, I'm joking aside. But I do 2 live streams. What's successful on my channel is I do 2 live streams a week in the morning, and we just chat about stuff. It's unscripted, whatever topic comes up. And then I collect jazz mainly on vinyl, but I like all types of music. And I've been on Grant's before to express how I like all types of music. So how this came up is I was able to find a sealed vinyl copy of one of my favorite records of all time. And then when I listened to it, there's this term, I can't claim ownership of the term no skips, but it seems that term has been bantied about on the social media that I watch. And it's not vinyl community social media, it's just general. When I
music
come to
albums,
music centric, there's one guy, name 5 no skip albums. So the guy does it and I go, well, he's not doing it right. We could do it better. So 100%. I pitched Grant on this, but this album that I found from the early 90s that I've owned the CD, and I don't even remember buying it. I just remember always listening to it. I go, this is a no skip album. So I pitched Grant this, and this is our attempt to express albums that we feel are no skips.
So, yeah, 100%. So this show, ladies and gentlemen, is recorded, but I foresee us next month, when we continue on, to open this up to the chat and get people's opinions, because really, you get so much out of a live show. So anyway, this show,
to yell at people as they comment.
Right. Well, next month, you can yell all you want.
Thank you.
Of course. So, all right, Rob, start us off. What's your first pick?
I'll save the album that started this idea for the second.
Okay.
I'll use the second album that I picked, and that is The Stones' Tattoo You. So in fact, I couldn't find my copy of this to disclose. I'm at a second location writing out the LA
secret location.
I'm at a secret location writing out the LA riots. Are they still going on? Because I haven't left here since they started. Okay. But I'm at my friend, so he had a copy of it, because everyone should have a copy of this. So here was my introduction to this. The year, 1981. Me, 13 years old, 12, 13.
Sure.
I was in junior high.
I was like 15.
The Stones came.
Yeah.
This album was put out. MTV burgeoned. The Stones came to town. I lived near the arena. I grew up in Washington, D.C., the Capitol Center. My brother went to the show. I didn't. I got a t-shirt. My teacher goes, "You went to the show?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Damn, I lied." Because I was a liar. But Columbia House, Record and Tape Club,
Yeah.
the cassette, you put it in, and from beginning to end, I might even think that the station in DC
Mhm.
101, every Sunday night would play 6 albums. Remember when they did that? The whole album?
They used to play it like at midnight or 11 at night.
No,
They'll
that
play
was like
new
9
album
o'clock.
comes out, they
Yeah.
play the whole thing.
Record it.
Mm.
That's how I got most of my albums. But I think this is a Columbia House album for me. Beginning to end. I I was aware of music. I had 2 older brothers. I probably knew who the Stones were, but when this album came out to me as a young teen, this is what I thought the Stones were. I didn't know stabbings and drug use and yeahs and mono, and I didn't know any of this. To me, this was my introduction to the Rolling Stones. And from what I understand, this album was a slap together album of extra songs, right?
Yep.
But how lucky were we that these songs slapped together created a whole album that worked from beginning to end where there were no skips. This is a no skip album.
Well, when you listen to that record, because we did a show, I can't remember, was it on my, did we do, where did we do? I can't remember. Over the years, we did a show, we looked at this record, and I think we looked at Emotional Rescue, maybe. I don't know. But I will mention, when this came out, Rob, I didn't pay attention to it. I was like, man, whatever. I didn't buy it.
And
I didn't hear the whole thing
you're in the
until
same
about,
age range as me, right?
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm older than you. I never bought it. I never listened to it until we did this show like a year ago. And I was really surprised. I know. Well, I wasn't a Stones guy. I was a Beatles. I never,
Well, I wasn't even a Beatles guy. I could tell you when I saved up enough money, my brother had the record player and stuff, or we had a big one, and went out. Obviously, for my bar mitzvah, my dad said you could take some money and buy one thing. I bought a boombox. So that's how I did the Columbia House Record and Tape Club. But even before that, I remember the first record I bought with my own money
Mhm.
was the soundtrack to Animal House.
My first record that I bought with my own money was Beatles 62 to 66 when I was 10. Rode my bike down to Kresge's in downtown Marion and knew I had to find a Beatle album. And that was the first thing I ever got. My second album I ever got was Magical Mystery Tour.
I didn't ride my bike, but in our area, Fat Daddy's, the record store with the head shop in the back, I walked in there and bought the soundtrack to I didn't
Animal
even
House.
see the movie. I didn't see the movie until years later, where we went on when from DC, you went to Ocean City, Maryland for a week to the beach. And on the place we were staying had free HBO. And I stayed up late and watched Animal House. And it was almost like that scene in Animal House where the Playboy bunny flies through the window and goes, "Thank you, God." I think that's sort of what I did. But getting back to it, I bought that soundtrack. I think the cover and just the songs and stuff, but that's how I bought. But getting back to this one, I got it, and it was being played. Start Me Up. I think. Remember Casey Kasem had that top 10. Obviously the top 40, but he had the top 10 TV show with the videos,
Mhm.
and it Start Me Up. I believe that, and that kind of got me hooked on this. But yeah, well, I mean, we can go into.
Yeah.
We can go into the songs. I don't know if I think this is coming out as I see it right now. It's inverted, so I don't. I
Yeah,
hope
but
it's not
it looks fine on this side.
okay. So we'll go into the songs and I'll discuss the songs because I've listened to it recently. It's not a song album I put on all the time. Start Me Up, obviously, a great song to start an album. Whoever arranged these songs on here did a genius job because just even in flow of music, Start Me Up is what you're doing when you put the album on. You're starting
Well,
it up.
it does sound like the best track to open up the record with. The sequencing on the record's really good.
Right now, and I'll have to say, not all these no skip albums. We could pick out. This is not a requirement of a no skip album, the sequencing. But I mean,
It helps make a perfect album though if it's
yeah,
properly sequenced though.
yes. So Start Me Up. Na, na, na. Na, 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 na. But I mean, perfect.
What wasn't
It
it
gets
used
you
for a Microsoft ad too?
probably. I don't know
For
how much I had to pay for that.
I don't know,
But
a
yeah,
lot.
all right. Then you go into the song Hang Fire.
Mm,
Doo, 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 doo,
hmm.
keeping that energy up in the flow. Then it's like my favorite period of the Stones is 70s. It is. This is probably the end of the era of Stones I like, considering that it was slapped together, probably songs they wrote and recorded in the 70s. But
A lot of it was. I think what was the oldest track? Because there's some Mick Taylor guitar parts on it.
well, my favorite one, if I had to make my top 10 songs of all time, and I don't have a list, but Beast of Burden is one of them. So 70s Stones to me, I'm a 70s Stones guy. All right. So then you go into Slave, which is it's not as hyping up. Got a good energy flow. And a lot of these songs on it I don't even want to call it a chorus. It's sort of like chants. Their choruses are like chants. I don't want to be a slave. Nah, 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 nah. It's
Mhm.
just, by the way, professionally, what I did for a living is I tested movies for over 25, 30 years. And I actually met Mick Jagger because he produced movies. So I remember. All right, that's just a side story that
That
I
was
can have.
good.
So Slave, you got there, and then you
Mhm.
go back to another powered up song, Little TNA. You go back up to
That's
that.
Keith Richards, right?
Yeah, he
That's
sings.
good.
Does he do two songs on here? He sings two songs on here,
Yeah, I
right?
like it when Keith Richards kind of takes it kind of whenever he takes a vocal part, it just kind of adds additional flavoring to the album. Let me say that. I'm all for it.
Right. I'm having old man disorder right now.
I
Can
understand.
you hum Black Limousine for me?
No, no.
I'm losing it on Black Limousine, but it is a no skip song. But I'm just blanking
That's
on
all
it.
right. No biggie.
Do they say Black Limousine in the song?
I haven't listened to it lately. I don't want to go, I don't want to say. I don't know.
Um, Neighbors, go back up to the hype. Neighbors, neighbors. That's another hyped up no skip song. Worried about you. Now I'm having a blank on worry. I re-listened to this like a week or two ago.
It's all right.
I should have done it today because the other album I listened to again today. Worried about you. Tops. Tops is good. That goes back to like Slave. Take baby. A lot of this has got that only Mick Jagger could come up with.
It's got that Mick Jagger swagger.
Yes, swagger like Jagger.
Yeah.
Heaven.
Yeah, I can't
I'm out.
remember that one.
But it again, someone here will go, you guys, you're an idiot.
You
Well, I
guys
am.
are idiots.
And then No Use in Crying. That's kind of like,
Mhm.
there's a crescendo, I think, that happens at Tops, and it brings the record back down to the best song on the whole album. The best song, and maybe if you made top 10 Rolling Stone songs,
Yes.
this has to be on that top 10. And that is
Wait,
Waiting for a Friend.
100%.
That is the best song on this album. It is the last song on this album. And it makes you feel like you should go wait for your friend. And as a jazz person, you got the killer Sonny Rollins doing saxophone on that song.
Yeah,
Best,
Waiting on a Friend was recorded during Goat's Head Soup, and they added Sonny Rollins after. That was one of the newer overdubs on the track.
and but they recorded the video for the album.
Right.
And that's a good donate. That's the best song on the album. But this, even though I'm old and I'm forgetting, there's no skips on this album. I challenge you people. Name another Rolling Stones album that's a no skip album. And we didn't say this at the beginning, but and we should
Sticky
stupidly
Fingers?
maybe, but we should
Probably.
we should stupidly come up with rules each time we do this.
Okay.
So here's one rule I'll put out there, but I'm not opposed to this. This is a loosey goosey rule. No best of albums, but
Oh no, I that those don't count.
those don't count. But there's a lot of best of albums there's some songs of best of albums that you should skip, right?
Mhm. But if you look at this track line, like you mentioned, Start Me Up, that was started during Some Girls, so was Hang Fire. But if you listen to those do sound kind of like a Some Girls era track. Slave was Black and Blue. Little TNA was Emotional Rescue. Black Limousine, that's Some Girls.
I don't know that much. I don't know. Sorry,
But
I'm
you know
on the
what I was
fly.
going to say, Rob, that really is a good, because when we looked at this on the show, everybody really thought that this was really a great record. We thought that this was the last great Stones album. Even though it's put together kind of like Physical Graffiti from all different sessions, and then they sprinkled fairy dust on top. This is the last great Stones album.
I figure I don't know the history other than it was slapped together,
Yeah.
but sequencing, song selection,
Works.
I can't think of a Stones album that works as well as this.
I have to agree. And the thing is that I do want to, before we go to the next record, I do want to mention that this record doesn't come off like they pluck songs here from there. Yeah, I can say Start Me Up. Yeah, I could see how that could be from Some Girls, or, Hang Fire. Yeah, I could see that. But really, all these songs sound like they belong together, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They don't sound dated. They just sound like they were recorded for this record. They
Well,
made
I
it
mean, even
work.
listening to it today, I don't feel that is 1981.
No,
Not at all. And I'm
it
not
is aged really well.
completely, and I'll tell you this. I was an old guy when I was 12. That my disposition was an old guy.
Okay.
So as I get older and become an old guy, I never say back in my day. That is not part of my deal. As someone who kind of surveys people on what they like or don't,
Mhm.
I can talk to friends who make movies and tell them how like a 12-year-old would rate the film because I get it. But that's not my deal. My deal is not, you know, back in my day. So I feel this album doesn't feel dated to me. It doesn't.
I I'm with you 100%.
So yeah.
All right, so the record I'm going to go with is back in my day when this came out. No, but seriously, when this came out, it was like, and I've mentioned this before, it was like the skies parted. It's like the heavens opened up because during this time in the early 80s, there's really nothing that sounded quite like it. Now, if you know anything about this band, they take a little bit of Roxy Music. They like Bowie. They've kind of Brian Ferry. They kind of mix it all together. But there is no sophomore slump here. I love this album just as much as I heard it then than I hear it now. And I have to go with Duran Duran Rio. At the time, they were kind of roped in there with that boy band thing, but there was so much more to them. This is their best album, bar none. And then probably the debut, and then
Well, they
Seven,
came
the
like
Tiger.
they did a thing with like much later when
Mhm.
they did that remake, that redo of White Lines. They
Yeah.
reinvented themselves. But I'll say that that album doesn't sound the same as like Planet Earth,
No.
Planet. It doesn't. It's Planet Earth. They were sounding like every other British invasion, second invasion kind of
Hmm.
band, new wave.
Here
That
they do not.
that's poppy, and they it was made by MTV. That's literally an MTV album,
Well, at least the videos were.
right? Well, I mean, that's how I didn't buy the album initially. I was introduced to each song as it was released, music video, but that's such a well produced album. It's very lush. It's a
And they're
great sounding. Yeah.
100%. And there's not anything on here that I skip. Still, after all this time, I can just listen to it, and I always have to listen to it kind of like a. Uh, I mean, this is not like an artistic statement. This is more like a dance record, I guess. But the production's good. All the sequencing's perfect. I mean, you start out with Rio, which is wonderful, and then it goes into My Own Way, Lonely in Your Nightmare, Hungry Like a Wolf, Hold Back the Rain. Side one, what is there to skip? All these are great tracks. Side two is a little bit darker, though. Starts off with New Religion, Last Chance on the Stairway. I think that was released as a single. Save a Prayer, one of
Yeah.
the all-time greatest
That might be
Duran
the best.
Duran tracks.
That's probably the best song on the album.
And then it ends with the chauffeur and, kind of obscure, kind of experimental track. They were firing on all cylinders. There's not a track on here you skip. And you just put it on and you just listen to it the way it is. And, as far as Duran Duran fans go, this is always considered the peak for good reason. But there's nothing on here to skip.
And an iconic cover.
And a night,
That
yes, right.
Nagel.
Oh, yeah.
Now I have to tell you, I grew up near the arena in DC. Me and my buddies went to Duran Duran concert for one reason. Do you know what reason that
Oh,
is?
because there's probably, go ahead. What?
It was like 35 girls to every
I know.
guy.
Well, I saw him in 1984 in Cleveland. Original band,
I think,
phenomenal. It was all young girls screaming, but I got them. See, I understood
yeah,
them.
I
So,
think we went to that Reflex tour, which was what
yeah,
album?
Seven and the Rage Tiger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but they're literally hot girls,
All
30
over.
girls every guy.
But I went, my buddy, it was funny. My buddy and I went, and my mom and dad drove us up, which I thought was funny because that was 84. I don't know why they drove us up because I could drive. Weird. I don't know. They went for some reason,
Well,
but it was during a
they knew you
snowstorm
planned
too.
on doing tons of drugs
Yeah. Well, they didn't
before the
know.
show.
Yeah. But anyway, I did see them, the original band,
Yeah.
at their peak. So,
No, I did. I didn't see, but around that time, didn't two of the guys left, right? The drummer and the guitar player.
well, Andy Taylor, well, they did the Power Station thing. They
Yeah,
kind of split up. John Taylor and Andy Taylor did Power Station,
and
Robert
then
Palmer. And then they did
yeah,
Arcadia.
yeah.
So John Taylor, no,
Simon,
Simon and Nick
Nick Rhodes.
did that. And Arcadia, I'm gonna say, as I go on a tangent, is like the long lost Duran Duran album. That, if I'm gonna rank them, that would be my fourth favorite Duran Duran album. Arcadia is a great record.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a long lost Duran Duran album. It's not like when they started going that real soul thing, like Notori. I checked out then. When Andy Taylor left Duran Duran, I kind of checked out.
Yeah, but when they had the resurgence,
Mhm.
it was the guitar player from Missing Persons who joined them.
Yeah, Warren. Yeah.
Yeah, and they did well with that, I think.
Yep. So there you
The-
go, Duran Duran Rio.
yeah,
All
I
right,
was just
Rob.
going to mention that the guitar player recorded the worst song ever on the 8.5 week soundtrack, right?
I've got that CD. I think 9.5 weeks.
That's hard. 9.5 weeks. Sorry. That was horrible.
I've got that CD. I bought that because I thought, and for some reason, I never sold it. It was one of those CDs I bought to resell because I thought 9.5 week soundtrack. In my monkey brain, I thought, I think that's one of those CDs people want because I think it went in print and then out of
No, I
print, but
mean
I
it's
still have it.
they're hit songs off that
Yeah.
Joe Cocker song, right?
Yes. But I think
Yeah.
it only had a real limited CD release.
Yeah, I
Like
don't know.
Tequila Sunrise is another soundtrack that came out on CD that was used to go for big money back in the day.
Not today.
It just depends. There's still CDs out there going for
No,
big money
no.
though.
I sell CDs. There's plenty of CDs that are worth money.
Yeah, you
I
just
don't
got to
know
know
about
what to
the
look for.
yeah. I don't know if Mel Gibson movie CDs are the way that are going.
Maybe not. All right, Rob, what's your next record?
All right. So this is the album that started this whole nonsense that we're doing. This is I consider this band, at least the leader of this band, one of the best songwriters in the history of songwriting. I think this is their third album.
That's
Might be their fourth.
that's the third record.
Third record. I went to a record store, and this was a CD era record, but there was one pressing in the US,
Hmm.
mastered by Robert Ludwig,
Yeah.
and they had a sealed copy on the wall. And
Oh,
I
I
keep it in
oh,
strength. It is Crowded House Woodface, and it has limited edition vinyl pressing and hype sticker, which I don't think there was a hit song off this album, at least in the US. There's the hype sticker.
uh well, Chocolate Cake was a hit.
I don't know about that, but I can tell you this. Here's what I know about this album. So I consider Neil Finn one of the best songwriters ever.
Mm.
I consider Don't Dream It's Over maybe the best song ever written. It may be the best song. That is my opinion.
Well, it
You
might
can,
be one of the best songs written in the 80s.
for
One of
me, it's
them.
one of the best songs written ever.
All right.
It has not aged. It's not my Desperado, but when it comes on, I can stop and listen to it. But so what I know about this album is the record company, based on the first two albums, wanted a third album. They sat down and wrote a third album. The record company rejected it. They would not. They didn't want it. It wasn't good. At that time,
I find that hard to believe, but
at
okay.
that time, Neil Finn was going to take a break and do an album with his brother Tim Finn, who they were both together in Split Ends. And I think Split Ends existed, and then Neil Finn joined the band and quickly became the lead singer. I don't think he
No,
initially.
well, Neil joined Split Ends in the mid to late 70s or something, and then his brother quit and Neil did the last Split Ends album, and the drummer that was on the last Split Ends album is the drummer for Crowded House.
Okay.
So kinda Split Ends became kinda, but the
Yeah,
bass player
okay.
wasn't the same
All right.
guy.
So they were making an album together,
Mhm.
and so they didn't have to prolong. He said, "Well, I have songs I did with my brother. Let's just try these songs." And that's really the joke was. So here's the back where all four of them with Neil, and then Tim joining the band. Um, they used the songs that they were writing together, and they put out a couple albums after when Crowd House took a break.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was because the drummer can decide not to be
To
on this planet anymore.
Exactly. Well put.
Right. Yeah, I think he tried it once. It didn't take, and then But those albums that they did together, and I actually saw them here in LA at the Greek. Excellent show. And those albums were good. I think maybe it was an EP and then an album, the Finn Brothers. But they did. That's what this album came out from that, and then the joke. I think it was a joke, about him joining the band. Well, let you have these songs if I am a member of the band. So I think he did it jokingly, but they made him a member of the band.
It worked and it works.
And it works. And here's a funny thing about this album. A majority of the songs they sing together.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 songs, I think, where it's Neil Finn singing. Maybe those were Crowded House songs.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
the majority of these songs they sing together, and it works so good. All right. So I bought the CD and always listened to it from beginning to end. Maybe this, I won't compare this to Tattoo You because I believe honestly that most people will agree that's a no skip album. But I think there is one song that might be kind of weakish, still listenable. But so the songs on here, and boy, is this a horribly designed album. I really hate it when the background just you can't read, even with the shrink on it. You really can't read anything. You can't. So on the first side, the first song is Chocolate Cake. And you might say the lyrically it's a dated song because there's pop culture references in it, like Tammy Baker and stuff. But I think she's become so much of a type that people might, know. And it's so obviously it's a social comment. I don't think this album is a concept album, but there a lot of the songs speak to, not giving so much to pop culture and following them like lemmings and stuff. But that Chocolate Cake song is, and it's got a good chorus to it, and just rhythmically is a good song. And it's a good song to start off the album with. The next song, a majority of these songs are so brilliantly written lyrically. Like as someone who's not a musician and doesn't even write poetry, most my talent, if I do have one, is just off coming up with things off the top of my head spontaneously. But It's Only Natural is the next song. And that has a good what?
That song is just absolutely my favorite Crowded House song. Absolutely brilliant.
Really?
Brilliant.
It's
Brilliant.
only nat- And they're singing it together. So they have a good their
Well, it's
voices
that brother blend. It's
yeah,
when 2 siblings sing. It's like the Bee Gees. The Bee Gees
yeah,
sounded great because they were all, brothers.
yeah.
So same thing
Right.
here.
So it really does work together. And you can feel like in the room with them when they're writing these songs. The chorus on there is just a really good chorus for a song. It's something you'll remember after you listen. It'll stick in your head. It's not an earworm, but it's good. All right. Um, Fall at Your Feet. Yeah, it's a good kind of, you know, I bequeath myself to you, woman in my case, you would say, or whatever.
I can listen to it over and over. I never get tired of it.
Oh, no, no. And Tall Trees is probably more a political kind of song. It's got a kind of there's no chorus, but the saying the title of the song is the chorus. Tall trees, and I think that might be a commentary type of song. There are 2 songs on this album that are almost at the level of Don't Dream It's Over. There are 2 songs on here that are brilliantly written forever songs.
Mm-hmm.
And the first of those are Weather With You. To the point when I first heard the song, I go, are they covering a song? That's what that song is. That song sounds like it was written by someone maybe in the 60s. But it's not a cover. They wrote it.
Right.
Everywhere you go, you always bring the weather. You know what it also sounds like? Again, I don't believe there were hit songs off this album. That song sounds like it had to be a top 5 song. And it's very sitar, or at least guitar copied sitar.
Probably electric. It's probably electric sitar. It was probably choral electric sitar.
Well, if I
probably.
could read this Greeking gibberish up here, Probably
Gotta go for
says
gotta.
blah 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 plays the electric sitar.
Well, you could read that on the CD in the booklet.
Okay. Um, so that song, oh, so good.
Yeah.
And then the song that ends side one is Four Seasons in One Day. That again is the second song that is equal to Don't Dream It's Over. Four seasons in one day. Da, da. Lyrically, that's a brilliant song. And it's sort of a maybe a pseudo ballad, I guess. So we go to side two. There Goes God, which
Phenomenal.
yeah, I don't know if it's a religious song, but um it may be a guy screaming at he's not screaming at the sky, but it's maybe trying to come up with an answer for why things happen. But it's a good, you know, well written, catchy song, right? The next one after that is Fame Is, which now, even though I listened to it today, is maybe I'd say the weaker song on that, but I don't know if that is.
Mm.
After that is As Sure as I Am. I think that's another pseudo ballad song on here. Um, Italian Plastic is a song that kind of starts off where you're going, do I have to skip this song? And then about three verses in, it gets you. It keeps you, it has a chorus
Mhm.
because they do weird things at the beginning of the song. You go, oh, am I going to skip? Am I going to skip? No, I'm not. So that's the tricky song. It's so the beginning, how it starts, you're almost going to go, am I going to skip this song? And then they cut into the chorus, which ends the song. And you go, thank God, it's not a skippy
It's
song.
not a skipper. Yeah. Well, I did look it up real quick. Chocolate Cake hit number 2 on the Billboard Modern Rock Track chart. It did not chart on the
On the
US Hot 100.
yeah.
Now, in the UK, Fall at Your Feet hit number 17 in the UK. But really, there was you were 100% right. No hits off of it
Dude,
here.
you know what? I am sick of other US, the adult contemporary. I'm sick of these. If it's not the Hot 100,
Who
then stick your
cares?
thumb in your ear.
Right. So, but no singles, which I
Which, this is their best album. It's crazy. I don't know what Capitol had going on at this time, but again, they didn't put out another album into a reformatted Crowded House to lots of years later. So
no, the next one was Alone Together Alone.
was it?
Yeah, that came out
What
after
was,
this.
when did that come out?
I'm looking. I That's another great record.
Because Tim Finn quit the band part into
Yeah, he
their
was
tour. They toured
right.
for this album and he quit.
Yeah, he
So
got some money, so that was it. I'm
um
looking.
so okay, then I'm wrong.
It came out October of 93. So there was a bit of a break.
Okay. Then that was their last album until they years later then.
Correct.
Okay. All right. The next one is She Goes On, and that might be another pseudo ballad there. And then How Will You Go ends the album. But again, this is old man disease. This is a no skip album. It is one of my favorite albums.
I
It is
agree.
such a good album. Do yourself a favor because I'm a big proponent of streaming before you buy anything, buy a CD and buy whatever, go on YouTube, listen to the album because I don't want to be the reason you get angry. Stream it
Always,
first.
yeah. Well,
But that,
I agree with you 100%. I
yeah,
also think the Temple of Low Men is equally as good. They were on fire. And Together Alone, I want to add, is not quite as accessible as the albums before. But
yeah.
when you listen to Together Alone, it's
Do they have a hit
absolutely
song? Was there a hit song on that?
it's absolutely brilliant. God, I love it.
All right, I'll have to go back.
Uh,
I'll have to go back and listen to that.
Now I do want to mention, ladies and gentlemen, if you go out and look for physical media, Crowded House is one of those bands you could always find in the cheapy binge, and you probably still can find them today.
Yeah.
What was the hit? Um, I don't think it had any hits. Distant Sun. Okay. It had two
Yeah.
hit singles. Distant Sun was a top 10 hit in New Zealand and Canada. Locked Out reached number 12 in the UK and number 8 on the US modern rock chart. So it didn't do
Uh,
anything here either.
yeah.
But I will
Um,
say this, they broke up after this and then they reconvened, and none of those records, though there's some great tracks on there, never captured, I
yeah,
don't think ever captured
was
what
it
they had
Mitchell
done.
Froome, who was their producer, joined the band. So he's in the band now. But I will say this 90s era solo Neil Finn,
Hmm.
he wrote, again, at least four equally Don't Dream It's Over songs. She Will Find Her Way, I think
Good.
is a solo Neil Finn song. That is, oh, I
Yeah.
think he might have had a few songs on some movies, something, but solo Neil Finn in the 90s, don't sleep on it. Go listen.
Yeah. Go
He
check
is
it out.
he is one of the best songwriters to ever written anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I think our internal clocks are working overtime right now.
What do you mean?
Well, I think it's just by natural charisma.
Oh, there's so much
And
charisma here. It's unbelievable.
right. That I now we're 45 minutes in.
Hmm.
We've done three albums,
Hmm.
and we'll finish up with you. I just think it's working
100%.
perfectly.
This isn't my first show, Rob. Not my first show.
All right,
But
now
this is fun because we're but I just want to, all we're trying to do is talk music and get you everybody. We're trying to recommend stuff to everybody. So we do want to hear from you down in the comment section. What do you think about Rio? What do you think about Tattoo You? What do you think about Woodface? So please leave your comments down there because I will see them. All right, my next record that I'm going to pick, we're going to go back 1975. I heard this when I was a kid. Actually, my first gateway drug to this band, I think, was News of the World in 1977 because it had We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions. And that I was like in middle school, and that's probably where I came into it.
Yeah, and my brothers had that, but that was such an overplayed album
Mhm.
that it wore out its welcome.
But this record, which really brought Queen to the mainstream, now, Queen's one of those bands. I am not a fan of the 80s stuff so much. Anything after that, everything after Hot Space, I'm just kind of lukewarm about. Although I do like the Works okay. Everything after the Works, I'm questionable about. But this record,
Well, when was the soundtrack to Highlander? Or that technically it wasn't a soundtrack.
that was on the
It's a
album
kind
of,
of magic.
yeah,
Is that the album?
well, it's horrible.
No,
You like
no,
it?
soundtrack to Highlander. A lot of the soundtrack to Highlander's on that album.
Yeah.
And was the song from Iron Eagle on there? Fried chicken.
Yeah, that opens it.
Yes, come on, that's good.
That's good, but not like this.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. We're just talking music. That's all this show's about. So I think Night at the Opera is one of those albums that have no skip track. It's a perfect record. Now you look at Rolling Stone back in the day, like this wonderful Rolling Stone record guide from 1979. They hate it.
Yeah,
Hate
but
it.
then they just hate
Queen.
Queen anyway.
I know, but they were a little bit pompous. They were a little bit over the top, but I think it's aged well. The production's
Wait,
good, but think about the production quality on this record.
but the production quality on all their records.
Well, but I think all the Roy Thomas Baker, and I think Day at the Races is fine. That was Mike Stone. Mike Stone was engineering for Roy Thomas Baker, so it's kind of the same thing. But this, yeah, this is Mike Stone as the engineer. Roy Thomas Baker's producing it, of course. Starts out with Death on Two Legs. Jesus Christ. How controversial because, they hated their manager. That's what that's about. Uh, Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon, which is kind of like a 20s type of song. See, they have all these different styles they incorporate, but for some reason it works. The sequencing on here is good. And then you've got I'm in Love with My Car, which is a Roger Taylor song, which is great. Some people really don't like that song, but I love it. You're My Best Friend, which was a single, and that was a big single here in the States. Then you've got 39, which is another old-timey song with Brian May singing. I like that. Sweet Ladies, a heavy song with the Freddie singing on that. And then it ends with Seaside Rendezvous. So they always have all these 1920s, 1930s kind of things on here. Now the other side starts out with the Prophet song, which is heavy and kind of mystical. Love of My Life, a great Freddie ballad. Gee, many Christmas.
Mhm.
Good Company, and then you got Bohemian Rhapsody, and then of course they end it with God Save the Queen. I like everything. There's nothing on here that I skip, and whenever I listen to this, I always listen to it as the entirety. I have nothing I want to skip on it. And is there other Queen albums that I can say that? I'm not sure if I can.
I'm
I
not
do
so
like
well
News of
versed.
the World, huh?
I'm not so well versed with that album. For me, although I kind of grew up and had two older brothers, they had Queen albums, but that one, obviously, other than Bohemian Rhapsody
Hmm.
and You're My Best Friend, those are songs I know very well. But that album has never really been part of my collection and stuff. So, but
I
I,
dig
yeah,
it.
hmm man, I'll have to listen from beginning to end.
You have to listen to it from beginning to end. I mean, it's quirky. Now, on paper, Rob, you're looking at
Mhm.
this, and with all the different musical stylings, it shouldn't work. It should not function as an album, but it does. I can't explain it.
Well, here's the thing about Queen. It shouldn't that be expected when you listen to Queen? It's everything but the kitchen sink in it, you know.
Yeah, but sometimes when the kitchen sink's all included, it doesn't work. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of layering. The guitars sound great. As for as many overdubs that's on here, it sounds pretty damn good, It shouldn't really sound this good. I have no problem with this, the
I
way it
know a little bit
sounds.
of A Day at the Races. I want to ride my bicycle. That's on there, right?
That's on jazz.
Jazz. Oops, I'm talking about jazz then.
Yeah,
I
jazz is great. I like jazz. There's nothing on
like that.
jazz that I skip either.
Right. So I don't. I think they were in a pretty strong period of time making the albums. Maybe after the game,
Well,
they.
my theory with the game is, though a lot of people, I've said this 100 times, and always is very controversial. When I listen to the game, that's where they started to introduce synthesizers. That's where I thought the cracks started to form. The game's a good record, but I think that's where things started falling apart. I
Well, I
think.
could tell you again if I go to my list of the best songs ever written. There is a Queen song that I consider one of the best songs ever written.
Okay.
Under Pressure. For
Oh,
me,
that's phenomenal.
Under Pressure is a top 10 song of all time. And
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I like the lore behind the song. He makes more sense to me that it was all improvised. It was just an all improvised song. They wrote it on the spot with David Bowie jamming. Where in the Caribbean? Where were they
I
at?
don't know. I don't know where they were.
But that so I do hold Queen in high regard. Obviously, Grant doesn't agree with me. The
What?
soundtrack to one of the best movies ever made, Highlander, and they're trying to do a remake. I hope they make it good. And the biggest letdown was Highlander 2, but Highlander 1, I watched it again about a week or two ago, holds up perfectly. And again, the soundtrack to that, Queen, you know.
Oh, I get you
Oh,
100%. I just don't
what
care
about
for
Flash
that.
Gordon? Flash Gordon soundtrack.
It's a soundtrack. It's fine. Flash. Da-da.
He's a little bit too much.
I don't have a problem with that. I've got it. I've got the 2 CD version of it and the old EMI version, but
I have the extra special uh, Blu-ray collection thing with missing footage.
oh my. And that movie's not that good.
It's campy good.
It can't be good.
It'll save every one of us.
I kind of like that song now. I don't have a problem with
It,
that.
That soundtrack's good too.
I just don't like 1986 Queen. I have a lot of issues with a lot of stuff that came out in 1986
It was
as far as production.
well, 1986 was probably historically one of the best years for movies. Therefore, soundtracks to movies. I am a man who will fight for you. There's a lot of hit songs for movies, and
Yeah.
it's a good movie year.
Well, the one thing I must say before we wrap this dog up is the
Yeah,
Crowded House stuff has aged really well.
yeah,
Even though that's late 80s for like the debut album.
yeah.
It's aged very well. Mitchell Froome's production on these, you know where Mitchell Froome originally was from, right? He
He was
was the
from.
keyboard player in Ronnie Montrose Gamma.
I don't
Used to
know.
be
I don't
he
know
used to be the
that. I
keyboard
thought he
player in
was.
Gamma.
I wanted to thought he was from more of the alt rock scene. No, no, that I'm wrong.
No, but he did a lot of work. The stuff he did with work with Suzanne Vega, great.
Yeah,
Great
that's not alt rock
productions.
scene.
Hmm?
Was Suzanne Vega part of the alternative rock?
Sure.
No.
Well, yeah, but good stuff. So,
Yes.
so there you go.
Excellent.
We can wrap it. You have anything? What's happening on your channel though? Before we wrap it up, other than
Uh,
give
I
everybody
mean,
the spiel of when you're on and what you
well, so
do and all.
I tried to get into this YouTube game, and where I found where I lie best is live streaming. I go on other people's live streams, but I might branch out more. But right now, you can come to my channel, and the live streams I keep up. I don't take them down. Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, 7 a.m. Pacific to 9 a.m. Pacific, 2 hours. Bring up people that everyone knows. And we don't plan on what we're talking about. This morning, we talked about movies, but we talked about music, whatever topics come up. I'm my best when I react to people, I think. I try and go out. I do prepared videos from time to time, like I'll go out and make a video,
Mm.
but I never feel like that's what people want to see me in. So that's what happens on my channel. I like to be different. I don't like to do what everyone else does. So
I'm with you.
I kind of got into this because my favorite thing to do is to go out and dig for records. That's my favorite thing. I'm not, even though I'm at my friend's place with a killer system,
Yeah,
and I
look
have
at
a pretty
that.
good set. I have a pretty good setup, but I'm more about the finding records and learning about records by finding them. That's what my deal is. So,
Yeah. I just
yeah.
wish, well, see, you do a lot of like, you do like estate sales too, right?
Those have kind of turned into something else, but I try and go anywhere I can look at records and find them,
Mm.
provided my schedule allows me to do it. Yeah, I mean, I'm all about, again, my preference to collect vinyl is jazz, but again, I'm trying to acquire the Cure albums, and I'm doing pretty good. Here's something: if there's a guy, Tim, University of Vinyl, great channel,
Mm.
that we've kind of chat about all the time is translucent vinyl. Are you big on the translucent audio?
I'm equal opportunity employer here.
It's
It's fine.
audiophile grade vinyl that's translucent. You can see through it.
All right.
That kind of was put out in the early 80s and then into the late 80s.
Are you talking the records that look black, but you hold them up to the light, but they're clear?
Right. So I don't know if all the times when you come across that those are audiophile grade vinyl, but most of the times that was a audiophile grade to press on. And I'm finding a lot of Cars records. I found a bunch of Cure, um, definitely Police. Synchronicity was put out in several different colors, and it generally does sound good. If you go, you can find Heartbreak City, the Cars.
I got it.
Whenever you're at a store and you look at the vinyl, hold it up to the light. If you can kind of see through it, pick up that version of Heartbreak City. They do sound better. So
I've got
yeah,
several copies of it.
I have a few New Order records
Mhm.
that are translucent. There's Japanese did it. It's probably came from a Japanese formulation of vinyl. There's ECM, which is a avant-garde German jazz experimental label. But it seemed to be a pressing thing in the U.S. at least that they did translucent vinyl. I don't know what label specifically would do it and what pressing plants might have done it. It's not there's Madonna records that are translucent vinyl. Yeah.
It was all that era,
Yeah,
like
when
a
they were
certain.
bringing
Hmm.
when they were bringing it in. There's a Impulse late 80s Impulse pressings that were marketed with this type of vinyl. I forget the KD something M whatever.
So are you
I'm
trying to get the Fiction Cure albums or the Electric Cure albums?
well, those are mainly when they made like US pressing, so the fictions were on like Sire. Like I've
Well,
actually,
are you collecting Cure domestic pressings? Like that's my
well, it's
question.
what I can find. I do have a few UK pressings.
Mhm.
In fact, Standing on the Beach, which the vinyl version doesn't, the cassette and I think the CD
I've got the
have more
cassette.
song, have more. I have actually cassette have more songs on it, but you can find a version of Standing on the Beach that's translucent vinyl. I have it, and also, wasn't it called something else in Europe? It wasn't called Standing on the Beach. Maybe it was called Looking at. I don't know. Standing by the Sea. I don't know.
The cassette I think was called. It was something different than what the vinyl pressing was called.
No, I have 3 Cure albums that are on translucent vinyl.
I used to have a copy of Staring at the Sea that was the Fiction made West German CD pressing of it.
I had the vinyl version of that.
But this was the CD. It sounded way better than the Electra CD by leaps and bounds.
Mm. I mean, well, but yeah, REM. I have translucent REM IRS REM records that are translucent.
Yeah, I have those too. That rings a bell. Those REM
Thank-
albums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are bands that I have. I grew up 80s. I was seeing 80s bands.
Mhm.
I was alt rock, Echo and the Bunnymen, and REM, and
I think REM Green is also translucent.
but that's a Warner Brothers title.
I
That's not
know, but
IRS.
I think it's translucent too.
Well, I'll have to look for that.
I
I
got
was a
all
big
that stuff.
I was a big IRS guy. Bands that were on IRS records are good.
I bought all that REM stuff in the 90s. Cheap. God damn, I always say
Yeah,
that, but it's
go
true.
look. People go look back at your records from the 80s, see if they're translucent.
Hmm.
People think I'm stupid because of it, but
No,
I'm not
no, I
stupid.
like this stuff. I like this stuff. We don't talk near enough about that kind of stuff on my channel. It's always just about bands and
I don't think for me, I'm nerd adjacent. Like I grew up a movie, comic book, pop culture guy, but I'm not too nerdy about it. If it wasn't worth remembering, I don't remember it. But I like, stories like the how Start Me Up or Tattoo You was put together. Like
yeah.
that's a good factoid. I like the factoids. So but I like the fact that for all these years, no putts held their record up to the light to see if it was translucent. Now, 40 years later, we're doing it and we're loving it
I can't
and we're
remember where
collecting
I
it.
heard that from though. Maybe the Steve Hoffman site. Maybe that's where I heard
I'll
about it.
let you know on all the thing. I hate the Steve Hoffman site. I don't go there. If I want to watch old men yell about stuff, I'll yell at another old man, you know?
Well, at this point in my life, I just go there to find out which pressing or which CD version is preferred. I use it for that.
Well, I find Discogs is a pleasant way to discover that, and people leaving comments in each particular pressing is a good way. I really find that the Hoffman forum is just filled with sweaty people who just are antisocial. But that's my take
Well, it's
on the
not what it
Hoffman.
used to be.
No.
No. back in the early 2000s, it was great. I mean,
Okay.
everything's been talked about enough because don't forget, this is a certain age group that goes over there. That age group's, well, I'm in that age group.
Again, as a person who doesn't say back in my day, I'm always welcome that how are younger people going to get into this? You know, how are younger, and they have the ability to get into this because I know when I was younger, I was watching, speaking of the Day at the Races and Night at the Opera, that's Marx Brothers. When I was a
Yeah.
little kid, I was watching Marx Brothers movies. So I got into it. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's why I like being humorous about all this stuff. It's really not that serious. It's hysterical to me because everyone has haters. I have haters, but they take me so seriously that I'm worth hating because I laugh. I like laughing at stuff. I don't really take the stuff so seriously. So, but
I get it.
this is such a good distraction to the horribleness of life. We're living and here's another thing. When people
Uh-huh.
go, we're in unprecedented times. No, we're not. We are in precedented times. I remember when the year I discovered Tattoo You, I grew
Mm.
up in Washington, D.C., fearful that the Russians were going to bomb where I lived.
I remember that.
Yes.
It was kind of a big deal. We were in Central Ohio when I was in
Yeah.
high school. We were worried about it. We thought it could happen at any moment.
I feel like historically, the only difference between today and 50 years ago is we don't know the moment everything happens, that moment. That's the difference. We are allowed to know when someone farts. They did it now. Did you know that? We're very connected. But
Too connected, I think.
I promise you, Baywatch holds up very well, guys. I rewatch it regularly.
Yeah, Baywatch still holds up.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with scantily cladded people and girls running in slow motion. There isn't.
It still stands up. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap this dog up. Rob and I could just rap for hours, but all right, you go on my Grants Rock Warehouse page, you go down to the bottom. I've already got his channel down there as one of the channels to check out. So if you want to go check out Rob's channel, it's down there, the Wax, just the link's right there. Just click on it and go over there. Please subscribe, and Rob will be back. We're going to be doing more shows, so please give him some love and give him some subscribers and check out his show. There you go. How's that?
Thank you, Grant.
Of course. We will be back next month for a couple of more. We'll look at 4 more records. So if you haven't subscribed to the Grants Rock Warehouse, please do. Please leave a comment about these records that we talked about. So, Rob, always fun. Everybody have a good weekend because I'm going to try to get this up. This is a great show. Get this up pronto. Probably be up tomorrow. We will see everybody.
I need more subs.
Give Rob some more subs. Go over and give him some love. All right, everybody. We'll see you. Keep it real.